into roll call. Adam? Here. Duong? Here. Neil? Here. Kendra?
Here.
Melissa Conway?
She's coming.
Tori Nuffin?
Here.
Jamie?
Here.
Cole Schneider? Here. Maggie?
Here.
Alicia?
Here.
Shoham? Here. Josie?
Here.
Joan?
Here.
Naya?
Here.
Kisway? Here. Cole? Here. Alyssa Miller?
Here.
Richa?
Here.
Jake? Sherm? Here. Hannah Ayo? Hannah Clark? Dia Pontius? Alex Lambert? Alex Melanchuk?
Present.
Malawi?
He's here. He's coming. Yeah, he's here.
Okay. Santiago? Jared? Here. Matt Sherman? Zoe? Philemon? Jordan and Monmouth. And with that, I'll call the 11th meeting of the 2019-2020 legislative session to order. The time is 6:04. So has everyone had a chance to read the minutes? There's been a motion to approve. Are there any seconds? Second. Any objections? Hearing none, so approved. Great. So now moving into speakers time, as I wrote in the email, and I've encouraged and explained to my understanding the role of the Associate Provost for Enterprise Research Planning, Dr. Blanchard, who has come up today to talk to us about, as I understand it, the new Testudo.
Well, I'll
yes.
you're talking about exactly what this involves.
Yes.
So I'm happy to do that.
Yes. If you guys could close your laptops. I think this is the one you emailed me. Is what I've got.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. So just briefly, I'll do an introduction about who I am. Again, I'm Jack Blanchard. I'm a professor here in the Department of Psychology. I've been at the University of Maryland College Park since 1999. Most recently, I served as chair of the department. I continue to be in the department, and I'm doing research on psychosis and social affiliation that incorporates behavioral, clinical, and neuroimaging assessment, and I have a current NIMH grant. So that's one part of my job. My new job that I started full-time at the end of May is Associate Provost for Enterprise Resource Planning. And I'm going to talk to you a bit, next slide please, about what this project is and what Enterprise Resource Planning is. And I hope to address the following questions. Who's leading this project? It's always important to know the leadership and who's making decisions. What are we replacing? So what do we mean when we talk about Enterprise Resource Planning or ERP? Why do we need to change this? And how will we go about making changes and when all this will happen? So I hope at the end of this you have a time frame in mind of how things are going to unfold both in the short term, this upcoming academic year that we're in, and then what happens after that, starting next summer. So next slide. So who, next slide. So the leadership of this project involves executive sponsors, and that's Marianne Rankin, the provost, Carlo Colello, the chief finance officer, Jeff Hollingsworth, who is vice president and chief information officer. They've then selected an executive steering committee, includes myself, representatives from DIT, we have enrollment management, we have finance and provost office, DIT with enterprise engineering, HR, because this involves human resources as well, and then we have a position that we're currently having active search for as assistant VP for this. As we move forward, we'll start populating a much larger team that'll be focused on the functional areas I'm going to talk about, which includes student information system and HR. Next slide, please. So what is it that we're replacing? Slide. So when we talk about ERP, next slide, thank you. We're really talking about the computing backbone or infrastructure of the university. This is how the university does its business day to day. And it's really a three-legged stool. On the lower right-hand side, you have financial. So Koali is a program that we adopted about 5 years ago. It seems to be doing its job okay. So all the finances of the university are pushed through this software. That then communicates with the two other legs of the stool, one being human resources, also a unit called human capital management. So if you are working, a work study student, if you have a job on campus, if you're a lifeguard, you're coming in contact with our human resources system, also called PHR, on this campus. And then we have the student information system. The student information system is everything. It's how you do financial aid, it's how you schedule courses, it's your transcript, it's all the information that you access that involves being a student. Now, there are pieces that connect to this that I won't get into right now, but this is the 30,000-foot view of what's involved in ERP. What I'm going to be talking about are the two highlighted aspects of this human resources aspect that pays people who are on payroll and gets involved in that, and then the student information system, which I think you're probably most interested in. So if I can have the next slide. So why are we doing this? In the next slide. So you might be shocked to learn that we rely on computing systems that are older than you are, and they're over 30 years old when we talk about the student information system. So when you look at it, it looks old and clunky and slow. There's a reason for that. It is decades old. It's written in a code that if any of you are in computer sciences, you don't learn COBOL anymore. This is written in COBOL. We literally have a hard time hiring anyone to code for this system because they are dead or retired, honestly. So when people are retiring out of our system who worked on COBOL, it's really hard to find people to fill them in because no one learns that anymore. So it creates difficulties for us. Payroll is also an old system. These are both homegrown systems, are written locally in COBOL, and they're managed what's called on-premises in the mainframe system that we own, that we maintain. The next slide. So all of you live problems with the student information system, so I'm not going to belabor this, but overall, there are difficulties. Students struggle to get current information about their classes. The systems are down regularly. They're down because they have to do batch processing in COBOL. So they have to shut the system down, run and update everything, and then put it back online. And so they have to schedule that downtime. There are all kinds of other problems. If you post a payment electronically, it doesn't get posted for 2 days, even though your credit card may have gotten charged. Departments have a hard time getting information about their students, about their employees. The maintenance I touched on, these are aging systems that are written in languages, again, that we have a hard time maintaining. And also, just writing in this language. So there's a policy, new policy on campus about calculating the GPA when you retake courses. So you can retake a course. So if you got a D that doesn't meet your major requirements, you need to pass into the C, you can retake that course and get a C. But there are several caveats. Now your GPA takes into consideration both those courses, though it's only the second course that counts towards your graduation requirements. Also, if you got that D in your first year, you get that freshman waiver where you can retake it and not have that count against you. So there are all kinds of nuances. They can't write the code for this right now. And they're saying this could take them a year or 2 years to write the code to adapt to this new policy. So when new policies are created on campus and then we go to the computer system to try to implement those policies, like the new campus gender policy, it's sometimes difficult for the old computing system to even accommodate policies that we've implemented on this campus. There's the new EU privacy policy, GDPR, that we have to maintain, General Data Protection Regulation. And that's also hard to do with this current old system. Go to the next slide, please. So you live this, I live it, but the campus also wanted to get outside expert advice about what problems we're encountering and how to move forward. So Tambellini Group is a consulting group that specializes in higher ed tech issues, especially enterprise resource planning. So starting in 2017, they came on campus, they started meeting with stakeholders. They then provided their summaries to the provost starting in 2018. And then just this past June, we had additional meetings with the consultants who were meeting with people who handle the student system, people who handle HR. And out of all of this, we came up with several conclusions. We can have the next slide. So in summary, the current legacy student and HR platforms are highly problematic for users and beyond their life expectancies. Continued reliance on these vulnerable systems will involve both cost and risk. And what we're looking to now is moving to a modern cloud-based solution. And that was what was recommended by our consultants. And if I could have the next slide. So we have a goal. And our goal is to move away from old mainframe on-premises solutions where we're using COBOL-based languages in homegrown systems. And we're moving to the cloud. Everything you do is probably on the cloud nowadays. The same thing is happening with ERP. So we'll talk about the major vendors in this space. But what the cloud allows you to do now is you don't maintain those systems. You are having a vendor who's expert at this, like an Oracle or a Workday. And now they're responsible for maintaining their mainframes, for maintaining security, making sure it's accessible 24/7. They also are providing the updates quarterly. So we're not trying to code every couple of years to update and improve things. They're doing that on a quarterly basis, just like your phones. You get one morning you wake up and it says you have to restart your phone, it's been updated. That's what will happen with these systems. But these are the goals that we have for going to a cloud-based ERP system. First and foremost, and this is about you in this room, is to provide a positive user experience for students, full stop, as well as for staff and for faculty. We want students to be able to access information wherever they are, whether they're using their laptop, their phone, whether they're on campus or somewhere else, whether it's 2 in the morning on a Sunday or in the afternoon while they're walking around on campus. We want this to be an experience that removes the barriers for you to do what you need to do so that you can graduate on time, and our staff and faculty make it easier for them. The second goal is to simplify and streamline business processes. We do things now on this campus, not because they're the best thing to do, it's because we have to do them because we're using old technology that forces us to use these processes. So what we want to do is modernize and streamline these processes using a cloud-based system that's going to be hopefully more efficient. The other thing that we want to do is minimize the risk of inconsistent or inaccurate data, and improve the ability to collect, report, and analyze data that are important for the provost to make a decision, for a department to make a decision. How many classes am I offering? Is that gateway course that my seniors need to graduate, is it filled up now? Do I need to offer more sections? We want to do that quickly because you're now going on a wait list and you're trying to graduate and you're looking at May and that course that you need to graduate is filled. Only 2 sections with 50 students. And so you're waiting and waiting. We want to be sure that that information gets to decision makers so they can intervene quickly. Let's open up another section. Let's make sure that you have those courses available to you. We want to make sure that the systems are maintained and updated, and we want to make sure that we meet all the boring but important regulatory compliance and accreditation needs. So, is this just something that we're doing to burden ourselves because that's Maryland's way? No. We are probably at the vanguard of a group of universities who are making this transition. So you have schools like Ohio State University is going, I should say the Ohio State University, they're very precise about in their title. UT Austin, Rochester, Washington St. Louis is going through this right now. UVA went through this with their HCM system. Iowa State's going through this, the whole entire system at University of Arkansas. I could go on, but all of them are in the same position where cloud-based systems that you've been using for years in your personal computing are now penetrating this market. And vendors like Oracle are telling people, look, we've been giving you PeopleSoft, that's their on-premises solution, for years. We're not going to do that anymore. You have to go to the cloud. Or they're using systems like ours that would just reach the end of their life expectancy. So we're all migrating in this direction, and we're all making these decisions. And so we're in good company. And we've been in consultation with Ohio State and other universities to learn from their mistakes, to learn about best practices, to ask them what they're using, why they're using it, why the decisions that they're making. So this is really useful for us to make sure that we're making informed decisions. Next slide. So how do we do this? I don't want to bore you too much. If you're interested after I'm done talking, I'll go back to this. But if we could go to the next one. What we do, thank you, is we put out what's called a request for proposal, an RFP, and this goes out to vendors and lets them know we are in the market. And that went out in August. In September, we selected 2 vendors who are on campus. So this week, Oracle is on campus, and some of you may have gone to their campus presentations. And next week, Workday is the other major vendor that's going to be here on campus. And that's the highlighted dates that I have there. So I came to the SGA previously, invited folks, and I'm glad to see that you're attending. We had some students across our 3 meetings that we've had. We have a technical evaluation committee. It's made up of over 24 members. They are part of every constituency on campus, especially student as well as HRHCM. And we're also getting information. So any of you who have gone to these meetings, you've got a QR code that you can scan in your phone or go to a link, and we're doing a survey. What did you think about what you saw today? What did you like? What didn't you like? Would you recommend this? Do you have any questions? We have some open text boxes. So I encourage folks to attend because all of that comes back to the technical evaluation committee, and that becomes part of our decision-making process in terms of selecting a vendor that we'll actually end up going with. Next slide. So there are actually 2 selections that we end up making. On the left is a platform they've been talking about, this software as a service. Software as a service is you don't buy a CD and put it into your desktop, or we don't have a mainframe that we load PeopleSoft on. Instead, this all goes to the vendor's cloud. They're responsible for maintaining it, and you subscribe basically to the service. The 2 big vendors that I have there, Workday and Oracle, are actually the 2 who are here on this campus. Oracle this week and Workday next week. But the other selection that we make is we don't do this alone. This is an enormous undertaking, and I'll be talking about how long this takes. It requires a high level of expertise, and so there are industries that have sprung up to serve this need, and you probably recognize some of these names if you're in business major or in computing. Deloitte, Accenture, Huron are some of the examples of consulting firms who come in, and what they do is they come in on campus and work hand in glove with an implementation team, it's called. So these are staff members on our campus, pair up with a Deloitte or Accenture, and they work together on transforming what we have and building what we're going to have in the future. Again, it's not just a matter of dropping a program on a mainframe. This is very labor intensive, time intensive, to transform what we have now into a modern solution. And each of these are unique in terms of their implementations, so they're not cookie cutter kind of approaches. So they're very time intensive, and that's what I'm going to talk about next in terms of the time that these take. Next slide. So here we are now. This is the short term. So we started in August. We have November, where we are now. So I've been in meetings since 9 a.m. this morning, and we have an all-day meeting with Oracle tomorrow 9 to 5. They did presentations all day yesterday, and I met with them on Monday, and then the same will start for Workday next week. Then what we're shooting for is that we will select one of these 2 vendors as to who we want to use here, and we hope to do that by January. Then we pivot to selecting our implementation partner. Now that we know the platform, then we tell these consulting firms, okay, this is who we're going to use. Come tell us what you can do with this platform, what your experience is, and then we select that person. And that's by the end of the spring semester when some of you are graduating. So at that point, this needs to go to the Board of Regents. This is a large purchase, and Board of Regents have to approve it. Board of Public Works, I think, also has to approve it. What we hope is that we could be in a position by August of starting a contract. And that's the start of implementation. If you go to the next slide, I'm going to show you the long term. So essentially, this will be a minimum 5-year process. When we look at HRHCM, that's about a 2-year process to go live. And go live is a term when you're going to pull the plug on the mainframes and you're going to go live with a new system, and that's what people use from that day forward. they start with the HR, that serves as the bedrock of the system, and then they build on top of that the student information system, what you use and encounter every semester. And that, again, is a labor-intensive, time-intensive process where we're looking at about 3 years to go live on that. So at least a 5-year period should we start next summer. We're looking at 2025. And I know that many of you in this room will be long gone, but this is an investment that we're making for the future, and this is a typical unrolling of these kinds of projects. They're enormous and they're multi-year endeavors. I think that's my last slide, so I'd be more than happy to answer questions.
I have a question.
Sure, please.
Start with that. So since this is a 5-year long process, which is longer than what a normal undergrad spends on campus,
right?
What is the plan for having consistent student input throughout the process?
Right.
Is there going to be like a rolling application?
Yeah, so the biggest phase in terms of input is now, because now is when we make the decision. Once we make the decision, then the implementation is very much trying to just figure out how do we get our business day-to-day done in this new system. So I would say that this year is the point, especially this period now when we're having these public demonstrations, that's the point to capture the student input. When we move forward in terms of the implementation, I think there's a question in my mind about how best and what role students could have. One idea is that we were talking about maybe opportunities to do internship placements with implementation teams to learn about consulting or to learn about computing and implementation. All this, by the way, is speculative on my part. I'm not laying out this is what we're doing. But in response to your question, I think that's another way for students to be involved. So that as we can do this, students are both benefiting from that experience and learning from that experience, and that we might also be able to get some student input on it. But the biggest point is right now, the front end, we're getting student responses to the things that we're looking at.
Thank you. Another question? Yeah.
So, I have 3 questions, but I'll ask one for Darren so everyone gets a turn and everything. Thank you so much for coming.
Oh, you bet.
It's a really great project, especially with ERP and everything. I know this investment is extremely critical, and so I just had a question and just ensuring that because, again, this is an investment, especially having student input is important.
Right.
I just didn't want the LGBTQ+ community to be forgotten in regards to the movement of this as well, especially in the 5-year process regarding that,
Right.
especially for trans and non-binary folk. And this, I guess, goes back in regards to campus gender policy.
Right, yeah.
And so, given your background in psychology and obviously the work on integration for ERP being more user-friendly to all students, I just had questions on following up on the Senate legislation bill where there was an approval of policies and procedures governing preferred primary names and sites gender markers in university databases.
Mm-hmm.
So all these include this one. So this bill was signed by President Lowe, and so my questions were essentially just following up on those recommendations that were written in the policy bill. As you know, the university develops a new information system, and keeping in mind to have those in place for students, especially the trans and non-binary community. So my first question, and I'll just follow up later. So will this, what will this enterprise system have in terms of permitting all members of the university community to change their primary name, gender identity, personal pronouns, and honorifics and or titles without undue difficulty? I know ARES currently does that for student employees and faculty and staff, but students don't have that option, and so based on the policy being approved.
So, yeah, so you're right, there's an existing policy, and when we sent out our request for proposals, one of the things that you do in a request for proposals, you list what are our requirements. We're in the market, I'm a customer, this is what I want from a product, should you offer it to me? And one of the things that we list are that anything that they provide us has to comply with all of our policies. And this policy in particular was listed as one of the 658 requirements that we had in the Excel spreadsheet that they had to comply with. And they had to tell us, can you comply with this and how would you go about complying with it? So they have to give us a product that meets policy, otherwise it's not acceptable to us.
So these vendors, so then following up with that, the vendor presentations are then very important because that's regarding who those key stakeholders would be involved in identifying if they can provide that particular
So they're right. So the first step is they respond to the RFP with a proposal. When they go through each of our requirements, they tell us, are we able to meet your request or not?
And so Oracle.
And so they both said we can meet your requirements and
Okay.
expectations.
Oh,
So
that's
they,
perfect, yeah.
Right, yeah, because if they can't meet that,
Right.
we're dead in the water.
Right. Especially the coding and everything. So.
Right, and they're doing this, they're not just surveying the University of Maryland, both of them see the market for universities, and so they're trying to make sure that they have a product that every university can use.
Right.
And so they tend to be very responsive to these kinds of requests, because if they start to say no, that's going to limit their client base. But for sure, we have to adhere to policies, and that was a requirement for them to get to this point and move forward.
Okay, thank you.
But good question,
Yeah.
thank you.
Oh, hi. First of all, thank you so much for coming.
Oh, sure, no problem.
I have a question in regards of like data security. Now I know that we're kind of in a huge like era now where like a lot of people are becoming a little
A lot.
bewildered in terms of like actually having their like sense of security be well protected, especially going on with everything with Facebook. I'm not gonna get into that, but so my question is, within kind of making the deliberation of which vendor that you guys want to choose from, like what exactly is the process that you guys have within evaluating each of them, making sure that our private security is going to be well protected?
Right, and that is paramount, because we have personal information that we don't want to disclose. We know how personal information has become vulnerable nowadays, and that we want to take steps to protect it. So just like with the policy that we were talking about, one of the main requirements was security. And there's an organization called EDUCAUSE, and EDUCAUSE has to do with IT in higher education, and they have security requirements and checklists available that people are supposed to kind of go through. And so we have, as part of their proposals that they submitted, an entire section on security and how they maintain security and what level of security that they have. So there are minimal expectations for that. They're quite high in terms of security. So we want to be sure that we're not moving to a platform that makes data vulnerable in any way. So we make sure that it is industry standards and that it's meeting our expectations. So it's part of the evaluation process is the short answer, and it's an absolute mandatory requirement that they can prove to us that they are taking all of the steps possible to protect our students' data. Because it's not just students' data, it's every employee's data that becomes vulnerable. When we had a data breach some years ago, I don't think some of you were here on campus, my son was a summer student who took a course, and his data were part of what became available. And so it's concerning to me, and I am very sensitive to that. And that was part of our review process, that security was ultimately an issue that we wanted to make sure that we can safeguard. But it's an absolutely important question. Thank you.
I'm gonna go down the line to Sherry.
So on the basis of security, and you talk about the university's the secure data, with the new system, will the two authentication step adapt to it, or is it gonna change based on the selected vendors?
Oh, in terms of how we do authentication now, I'm not sure if it will change. We're going to require the authentication, right? So two-factor authentication. I'm not sure if the vendor will have their own built-in solution, or if we'll continue using the Duo solution. And I think it will depend on the platform.
Exactly.
So I'm not sure how to answer that.
Okay, thank you.
Again, I just want to reiterate, thank you so much.
Oh, sure.
Talking about some bigger picture plans. And this sort of like speaks to sort of like my personal background, growing up in Silicon Valley as like a big sort of equal sort of like move fast and break stuff culture, where like things are kind of rushed forward and not necessarily double or triple check. As well as sort of like a culture of crunch. Do you see that the sort of bigger picture 5-year guideline as being more conservative or generous with the time granted for the project's implementation?
So do I see the 5 years as conservative or generous? I think that the wording I used was at least 5 years. So if you asked me to guarantee or commit to it,
No.
I couldn't do it, but I think to your point, I think that each installation is unique, and there are unique challenges to every campus. And so you never know what you don't know until they're here and we start reviewing our systems and start to make a plan for the integrations. And so what everyone tells me, and this is a new area for me, what everyone tells me about implementations is expect the unexpected, and that there will be some delays. What we don't want to do is rush and break things with what we're doing here. We have a university that needs to continue to function, and students who need to continue to enroll in their classes, and learning, teaching, research is what we're about. And so that needs to be preserved until we can be very confident that what we have is actually working, and then we can do that crossover and move to the new system. So I wouldn't use the word rush at all with what we're trying to do here. I think there is a conservative approach to maintain what we're doing with our students and research and everything else.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming, and also just to follow up on the BSOS representative's question about security concerns. You mentioned that you guys were in consultation with Ohio University and a bunch of other universities, and I'm really interested to hear a little bit more about what that conversation looked like, and some of the priorities that were discussed, specifically if security breaches were discussed, and also like a smaller follow-up question just regarding what types of data are available on this system. I know that grades and like student contact information is on there, but is financial information, stuff like documentation status, so all of that is also on there.
So yeah, that's all in our current systems and managed in different ways, but now on premises and in a mainframe. And so all of that is either part of the student system or part of PHR if you're working, but all of that has to be integrated so that when you're a student, you can enroll in courses, and then if you're getting financial aid, those courses are getting paid for if you have a scholarship or a student loan. So all of that material is integrated in one. So that's in the current system, and that would be in a new system as well. In terms of, you were asking about how we talk to other universities and what we're asking them about, is that right?
Yeah, like in the conversations with the other universities, were security concerns and like potential breaches brought up, and what advice or what input did the other universities have about that?
Yeah, so we ask a broad set of questions, including their appraisal of security with their systems. And one of the things that we're interested in doing is, again, these systems are at the cutting edge of technology, and there are a small number of campuses that are doing this. And so we value their experiences, and that information for us is something that will then drive our decisions. So we ask them a whole breadth of questions. Some of them are technological in terms of how these systems perform and do they meet their specs and requirements. Some of them are more about the business culture of the vendor. Do they fit with higher education? Do they appreciate what it means to educate students? Do they appreciate the different policies that we have and the different populations that we serve? We don't want someone coming on campus saying, look, we've installed these kinds of things with Walmart, we can do it with you. A university is a different kind of entity with different kinds of populations. And so that's another thing that we ask about is the culture of those organizations, their experience in higher ed, and what they're like to work with. Are they collaborative? Are they responsive? Are they sensitive to issues? Do they do well as a team? In terms of implementation partners, do they have implementation partners that really come in and get the job done? Or do they have problems? And sometimes you do have problems with the implementation partner. And in rare cases, you end up pulling them out and starting over. We don't want to do that. So each of these universities, we're asking them the full gamut of questions. What went well? What went wrong? And what are the lessons learned? What advice would you give us? And one of the things that we're finding, I think it's wonderful working in higher education, is it's not like IBM is, calling, another computer company and they're rivals and they're trying to, share information. when we call Ohio State or Vanderbilt or University of Pittsburgh, I just made 12 calls with 12 campuses to get information. Because all of them are like, what can I tell you? What do you want to know from us? We want to help you. There's a real sense of shared community because we're all trying to achieve the same thing, and there's no competition there. So there's a lot of collaboration, and all of that information is useful for us. Some of it's boring. How do you stand up committees to do this kind of work? How do you hire for these kinds of positions? What's the timing of this? And then other is very technical or high level, like security issues and how they comply with government requirements and other kinds of requirements. So does that help?
Yes, thank you.
But that information is so valuable to us because we can hear other people's mistakes and hopefully avoid it. And some of those mistakes can cost millions of dollars. And so much better to hear about that and acquire that knowledge so that we can navigate this in a way that we're not having difficulty.
Yeah.
Hi, thank you for taking your time to be here.
You're welcome.
I wanted to ask about, so I know in residence halls we use a system called MyDRL, and we've been slowly switching over to StarRes, and instead of completely switching over to the system, we, this year, we're doing something where we're doing like half MyDRL and half StarRes, and so community assistants this year have a lot of inconveniences running into issues with the program.
Oh.
And there's been a few issues when in the beginning of the year when we were first checking out keys and things like that. And so I just wanted to ask, like, as all students here use Testudo, what are you doing to make sure that like Testudo is being used efficiently in these next 5 years, and there's not going to be like a half and half system thing where we're going to have issues?
Yeah, no, it's an interesting experience that you're having. I'm sorry about that. So my understanding is that there is no half and half. That when you go live, you have tested the system, and you end up doing a crossover where you're looking at how the data agree with one another, and if they seem to be working, and you are the one testing phase is basically you go in and you mentioned breaking things. You try to break it. But this is before it goes public. So all those stress tests and validations are done behind the scenes, and Testudo and other systems will continue doing what they're doing, and we will maintain those systems because we need those systems working. We won't go live until those systems are ready. Now, that doesn't guarantee that there won't be glitches. We won't discover things about training staff that maybe didn't get done the way that we hoped to get done. There are always those kinds of hiccups. What we don't want is, oh, this is not working, now we have to go back and do something. I don't think there's a half solution. So you want to be very confident that new platform can stand up and do what it needs to do. And I think there's lots of testing and validation and stress testing before you get to that point. But that's an interesting experience that you're having. I'm sorry about that.
Again, this question over here.
Again, thank you so much for being here
Sure.
tonight. It's great to have a resource like this. And I just kind of wanted to bounce back to what the BSOS rep was saying earlier, business rep was doing earlier, talking about different stakeholders within this system.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if you have already or have plans to meet with different student groups with special interests, such as like trans youth or different LGBTQ plus student groups who definitely would have a specific point of view and perspective.
So when I reached out to SGA, my request was I will meet with anyone, and they brought me here, and I hope that this allows me to connect with other groups. If there's a group that you belong to, if there's another group you think that I should talk to, I will be there. I've been on campus since 6:45 this morning. I'm here talking to you. That's my job. That's what I want to do. So I'm invested. And again, for me, part of this is there's intellectual curiosity about this. Part of it too is I feel personally invested in this. I have a son who's graduating in May from College Park. My daughter's a freshman at Pitt. I don't know why she went there. But I have children who come and will show me and complain about accessing information, doing something, and I get it, and I want to talk to students. So if anyone here represents a group, you feel that I should go talk to someone you think would be interesting, I'm happy to be there. So you just let me know and I'll respond and we'll work
And
something
I'm
out.
happy to work to compile a list to send over to you.
For sure, yeah,
In the
that's
coming
good.
days/weeks.
Yeah.
We can definitely make that happen.
But thank you for asking.
Again, thank you so much for coming here and presenting to us. To my understanding, it seems that the HCM is being implemented before the new system, is that
Right,
correct?
yeah, so my understanding is that they start with the HCM because it serves, and I'm not gonna explain this technologically correctly, but just as the bedrock for the rest of the system. So that it creates all of that and then you build on top of that the student system.
That's kind of more of my question.
Yeah.
So how will the new HCM, will that be working alongside Testudo? And like, if so, what makes you think of the compatibility there?
So, it's a good question, and I'll tell you right now, I can't answer it. But I'm gonna take a guess, if you'll allow me, just with a caveat that I'm kind of spitballing, I'm not sure if I have it entirely correct. But my understanding is that if the new HCM system replaces PHR, it will replace it only if it has a proper integrations to work with Testudo. So it won't replace PHR and then go, oh wait, it can't communicate with Testudo in our current student system. They would create integrations so that those systems could work parallel and then be replaced. And if they can't, again, this is not my expertise, I presume they would have to stage HCM at a time when the student was ready. But you can't do anything to interfere with the existing student system until you're ready to replace that system, right? So that's the driving logic about what will happen for my case. But again, my caveat is that I'm not the tech guy on the team. I'm the talker. But good question.
I know there's a question in the back.
Try to turn you around.
No, please, yeah.
So, quick question. So one thing, so I did government affairs. So one thing where we saw is that Oregon 2018 passed a bill that required the Oregon sort of infrastructure to include information on registration pages, open source resources, and like free textbooks that are available. So I was wondering if that was being taken into consideration here, or if the software or the new system that's being implemented would have the capability of doing
Were you one who contacted Betsy Reese?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so reach you. Okay.
So what was interesting, so this question is about, in Oregon, when you register for a course right now, when you go into Testudo, you see the course and you register for it, but there's nothing there about, oh, by the way, this is gonna cost $300 for that, anatomy book. You don't know how much that book is gonna cost. I don't think you know, you'll know if there's a fee, but you don't know if there's something, other costs involved.
In our case, if the course has free or open source resources.
Yeah. So, and we don't have that information now, and the issue that you're raising is that students can go ahead and enroll in a course only to find out later, holy smokes, this is hundreds of dollars more than I thought it was gonna be once the book is listed or other materials listed. And you don't know if it's gonna be free, that it's gonna be open source material that the professor's gonna be using, so interesting question. So you posed that to Betsy Reese in the provost's office. I was in a 3-hour meeting today with Oracle, and they were presenting on the student system. She forwarded me your email, my hand went up. And I said, I just got a student who asked a question, I passed it on to you, and I said, when you have courses offered, I know you list the tuition and fees, but can you build into the system that this other information is available? How much the books will cost, how much other fees, or if there's open source? And her response to me, and this is not a guarantee, her response is, yes, we can do that. And I thought that was interesting. I thought it was an interesting question because I hadn't thought about doing that. So a good example of student involvement and asking a question from the student's perspective. So she said that they could have that available. This is aside from the platform, there are challenges to doing that, right? So one challenge is that professors, and I'm a professor, so I'm picking on my own group, professors aren't required when I'm told I'm going to teach a class in 2020. I'm not required to say, well, this is a book I'm going to use. I might put my syllabus together over the summer or in August for a course that's being offered in the spring. So the challenge is educating faculty and working together on campus so that faculty understand the importance of getting that information out early because it's gonna require them to do something different that they don't typically do. Maybe like you, we often do things at the last minute, right before there's a deadline. And so putting up a book that we selected for a course that's being offered in 6 months is unusual. But I think your question raises a point that that's important information to have for some students. So why not try to accommodate them and do that? So I did pose that question. I'll pose that same question to the next vendor to see if they do that as well. But I think then there would have to be some work on campus. Even if technologically we can do it, how do we bring faculty on board so that we push that information out earlier so it could be listed with the course, right? This book is going to cost you $300. Do you want to think again about whether you want to enroll in it, or at least plan for that cost?
So,
did I answer your question? Yeah, but it's a good point.
So technological changes such as that have to be decided now, or they can be decided throughout the 5-year process?
So these platforms, the way they're designed is that they don't, like right now what we do is we write our own code and we customize a platform and make it do what we want it to do. The problem with that is what we've been talking about. Now you have to maintain it, it gets old, et cetera, et cetera. The way these platforms are created is that you configure them for each campus. So you don't get an Excel package and then you're calling up and saying, well, I want my Excel package to do something that no one else's does. They say, look, we've created the ability for you to configure it in ways that work for you. So these cloud-based solutions use configuration rather than customization. But the question is, how configurable are they? And then the question that I asked the vendor today, she was able to drop down and go, look, here's how you go through decision rules to make this kind of decision or to provide this kind of information. And I was like, okay, now I understand that. So right now you're asking those questions of them is, do they have the flexibility to configure something to address this or to configure something to comply with policies? And this is when you want to learn it. Then when they come on campus, that's when you're configuring rather than customizing, and you want to make sure that they have the capacity to configure in the way that you want. I hope I haven't talked around in circles there. Did I answer that question?
Yeah,
Okay.
that makes sense. I know you have another question, and then we'll one last
Yeah,
one.
I hear another question. Thank you. Thanks. Awesome. So I know you, in the previous slides you were mentioning leadership was mentioned, kind of like accountability, and like would be helping with running the program. I know this is like still kind of like a new project.
Right.
So I just again wanted to follow up on kind of advocating for that Senate legislation bill that was mentioned previously before my first question. Just kind of like my question was like, who would kind of be accountable, like out of in those leadership committees, like or in the leadership team that you had put out there, like is there a committee or someone that needs to report to the Senate, like Equality and Diversity Inclusion Committee, that was supposed to be in the report? Is that person like acts over SWAT, who's the executive director of enterprise engineering, and have anyone like with the stakeholders in the team, have they followed up on updating the report that was like based in the policy? I know the policy was implemented in 2017, and then I know it said, like as the policy states, that the university should designate an office and or individual to oversee implementation of this policy and its recommendations and report annually to the Senate until that policy is fully implemented, beginning on March 1, 2018.
So
I don't know if there were any follow-ups.
So I don't know what campus entity is responsible for that, but that would be separate from the enterprise resource.
So it is separate from enterprise resource planning?
Yeah, I mean, but the enterprise resource planning committee wants to be making sure that we're responsive to that policy, but I think there's an office on campus that's taking responsibility for making sure that that policy is implemented.
Do you know who the office is, or?
I would guess the Office of Diversity.
Chief
Diversity Officer?
Okay. So I think that was like some of the questions. I've been speaking with like different departments on campus, especially the LGBT Equity Center, on just trying to find out who is accountable or who is really taking
Who's
ownership on
implementing?
these.
Who's implementing that?
Right, and so one of those questions is no one really owns that, and I know the Office of Diversity Inclusion doesn't, and so that's why we thought maybe you would, since, or someone within ERP, since you are making the workings of this, so there needs to be someone that, someone needs to report to Senate for you to committee on updates for
Yeah.
database.
Yeah.
So if it is the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, wouldn't they need a representative from your team letting them know, like, what's going on? Because I don't know if they would know those updates regarding the current system information.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
A little bit. But I probably want to follow up with you.
Yeah, it's such a specific yeah.
And I want to make sure that I answer the question.
Thank you, yeah.
And I think part of that answer is going to be unrelated to the ERP.
Okay.
But I don't want to leave you just by saying, go look elsewhere.
No,
What I'd like to do is
yeah.
help you find the answer to it.
Okay.
So maybe you can
Email,
reach out to me, email me,
yeah.
and then
Yeah,
I
I can definitely
could,
put you in.
Thank you.
then you could pose that question, and I could either put you in contact with
Yeah.
someone, or I
Yeah.
could find someone who can answer it, so that we can make sure that we close the loop on that.
No, thank you, because I know
Sure.
that would be so awesome.
Yeah.
I have one more question.
But
Go
you
ahead.
also, I'm sorry, but you also raised an important issue of making sure that we have representation because this is only the beginning of
Yeah,
this,
yeah, yeah.
of this
That's
organization, and I think making sure that we're sensitive to this issue in terms of membership.
Yeah.
So that's also something, if you wouldn't mind.
I'll
I'd like
look
to
sure
talk
to follow
about.
up, for sure.
Okay,
Awesome.
yeah, okay. Did you have another?
Just on the vendor presentations that will be being held on November 4th to the 15th.
Yeah.
So is that like a week thing, and is
No.
anyone available to attend?
Yeah, so I sent out 2 campus-wide emails. I think the first was last week, the week before, and then there was another one that sent out Monday morning.
Mhm.
And that announced the availability of 3 meetings. They were open to the campus.
Open to the campus.
Anyone could walk in, and there were 2, we came 3 different presentations. They're identical presentations, but we had 3 different times across 2 different days to try to accommodate folks' different schedules. By the way, those are also recorded, and they'll be available online. And you can watch that online. The vendor's going to give us the link to that, so we don't have it yet. We'll push that out. So if you missed those today, this week, you can still watch them online and then complete the survey online.
Okay.
Then next week, Workday's going to be here. They'll have the same schedule. So on Tuesday, there'll be 2 meetings in the afternoon, and then a presentation, same kind of presentation, Wednesday morning. And we'll send out a reminder to that on Monday. But it's the same email that I sent out on Monday that went out.
And I included your email in the email I sent out on Monday, and it's also in the agenda.
Perfect.
So.
And that gives you all the dates and times of both vendors. So if you look at that one email, you'll have it.
No registration is needed, and
No.
anyone can come in and ask questions, like students, faculty.
Right. No, that's what we want. We want someone there, and that's what we had. There were some instances of students asking questions, some over email, and then we had staff, faculty, administrators, anyone who wants to come. We just ask you to sign in, and then you get a QR code, and you can do the survey. But again, that's all going to be available online. So I know course schedules are sometimes crazy, so you could just log in and have an exciting 90-minute YouTube experience in your pajamas.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah, I think no one has any other questions. I'll make sure to reach out with a list of student groups or communities that members tell me you should be in contact with, and I can definitely get that to you sometime soon.
Anyone can email me, and I will respond. I want to thank you for your time. I appreciate you meeting with me previously, and I appreciate everyone's time this evening. I know it's been a long day for all of you, and I look forward to meeting again and keeping folks up to date. But thank you.
Great, thank you
It's
so
a pleasure.
much. So moving on, speakers time. Next week we're gonna have the athletics director, David come. That's gonna be exciting. And then in 2 weeks we'll have representatives from UMPD come, either the chief or the deputy chief or both. I'll keep you updated on that. Lastly, from speakers time, progress reports for representatives. You all got a fun email from me this morning at 8 a.m. I recognize it was harsh. I apologize. But I just wanted to let you all know of what's in my records, so that if there is an inconsistency, if you think there was a mistake, if I forgot something, very, very possible, please let me know. Nothing's happening. I just am letting you know of your requirements and what I have compared to the requirements in the bylaws. If there's any questions about that, please let me know. A couple of you have reached out already. I think we've discussed it. If there's not enough, if answers haven't been reached, I will happily sit down with you. Lastly, in the email there was the form to fill out by next Wednesday about the initiatives you worked on. A lot of people have questions. Oh, I can't write a bill because my initiative isn't quite there yet. That's fine. That is why the exemption's there, but I need to know what you're working on, what stage it's at, so that I can get that exemption for you. But I am here to work with you. Like, I want everyone to enjoy SGA and be successful in SGA, so just reach out and I'm here. But that is all that was. Alright, so now moving on to the finance report.
Hey y'all, how are y'all doing today? So first thing, I got a lot of stuff on my agenda. First thing, emergency funding, $2,046.35 were requested. The Finance Committee recommends to allocate $971.35. That's not funding only 2 groups, the others were fully funding. Do y'all want me to go into detail? All right, Indian Students Association, we're going to cite the DG that says if SORT cannot pay it, it will not get funded. Due to the timeline of their event I believe is on Saturday. They want us to drop, or they want SORT to draw 3 contracts. It's not, the advisor to the Committee on Financial Affairs has said that it's not logistically possible to do that, and a contract is required before services are rendered. That's university policy, there's no going around it. And then dedicated undergrads nurturing kids, they requested money for fingerprinting. However, they said that they were requesting, their numbers weren't adding up. They said they were requesting for 30, but then they said they wanted 20 people to go, and then they might have been getting 4 people to be co-sponsored by something else. And they were also not requesting for the amount that they, like, the documentation they showed was significantly higher than what they were requesting for, and there was just a whole lot that we could not understand. So we want to cite the DG that says insufficient justification, insufficient justification, and the application must be complete and correct when it is submitted. Any questions about those?
Can't fingerprinting and background checks be funded with SGA funds?
Can it legally? Probably. Will the SGA pay for it? The committee felt they justified the need for it in the abstract. It's on a case by case. Everything's on a case by case basis. So like it's possible. Does that answer your question? That's kind of
You can get fingerprinted on campus. There's this crimp professor who's happy to do it for you.
Oh, for free? Oh, really? Really? I'll tell them to check out the live stream.
Very strange. You email this guy, he's like, when do you want to know?
Is he like validated to do that for jobs?
I did it for a DOD.
That's awesome.
Sorry.
That sounds cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Now we know.
All right. Any other questions? I'll make sure to include that in my email to them. I won't do that. Any other questions about this?
I'll take a motion on the group help. The chair would look favorably on a motion as a block.
Sorry? There's been a motion. Approved as a block. Are there any seconds? Second. Any objections? Hearing none, so approved.
Thank you all for that. Next thing, a couple DG changes. These are not substantive changes per se. Like this is more codifying some rules that the Finance Committee already has when it goes into what is a crop documentation. It's making it clear to student groups. This is crop documentation. I'll take questions about it. It's basically saying that we need to be able to contact whoever, like if student group says, we need $1 million to make this happen. I hope they don't ask that because they don't have that much money. But if they say we need $1 million, we would be able to contact the person who sent the email. We want to be able to say, like, does it really cost $1 million? And, like, verify costs. Like, that's for both of them. It's just for websites. I'll take questions about that.
We're gonna have to vote on this as well.
Yeah.
So, are there any questions before we vote on the DG changes? All right. All in favor, please raise your hands. All opposed? Abstaining? All right, passes. Any other?
Yeah. So this has come up a lot recently. Office hours. Groups have been coming into the office asking to talk to someone from finance. And I want to be a resource to student groups, but also I do have classes outside of SGA. So I'm just going to ask y'all politely to ask them, if a student comes in and they say, we want to talk about the budget, first ask them, did you check the website to make sure that we're holding office hours right now? Because a lot of times groups will just stop in and say, like, oh, I just want to talk about my budget. But, like, I'll be in a meeting, or I'll be talking with another student group who made an appointment, or something like that. So I'm playing, like, this game of being like, well, I can't talk to you. So, like, and then if they say no, and it's not during office hours, just, like, slap me before you pull me out of a meeting with a student group, please. Just not singling out anyone. I'm just trying to say, like, etiquette and stuff. And then after that, finance deadline is this Friday at 5 p.m. And then that's the amount in the SGA accounts as of right now. Any questions?
Where are finance office hours posted?
They're posted on the finance website.
Finance website.
The finance website. ter.ps/SGA finance. Questions?
Thank you all.
The journalism rep, there's room over here if you want to join us. Alright, so moving into first reading calendar, F1911-06A, an act establishing and funding the student group Turf Supply Drive sponsored by the agriculture representatives will go to finance committee at the primary, student groups at the secondary, and combo at the tertiary. Then F1911-06B, a resolution calling for the revision and enforcement of university policies regarding free speech, sponsored by one of the off-campus neighboring representatives, will be sent to student affairs. Alright. Moving on to second reading calendar, we will start with F19-1030A, a resolution co-sponsoring UMD Asian American Student Union's Fuel, the future. Are there any student concerns on this bill? Is there a committee report?
Hello everyone, I'm Selena from Senate today. It passed unanimously in committee, and just to make sure to remind you guys, it's going to be held November 16th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. in the Forum 1101 room at the A. James Clark School of Engineering, so feel free to come by. Oh, and register too, and it's free too.
So there were no amendments, right?
No
I don't see any. Alright, so I'll take any motion. Are there any questions for the step-in, for the director of diversity and inclusion? Alright, cool. I'll take any motion on the committee report.
Motion to approve.
Alright, there's been a motion to approve. Are there any seconds?
Second.
Any objections? Hearing none, so approved. Seeing that it's been approved, is the body ready for the main question?
Yes.
Yes. Yes, we'll move into a period of voting. All in favor? All opposed? All abstaining? Alright, so the bill passes with a vote of 32 to 0 to 1. Alright. two tabled bills. In terms of parliamentary procedure, you'll have to, if you would like to take the bill off the table, there will need to be a motion to reorder business and put it on to second reading.
Motion to reorder business and move F19-1023A to second reading.
Alright, are there any seconds on the motion?
Second.
Any objections? Hearing none, so reordered. Great, so now, we'll move into F19-1023A, a resolution supporting a permanent position for the undocumented student program. Are there any student concerns? Since I see there are, could you all please give the students respect by closing your laptops?
Oh, wow. Sorry, for a minute I almost said welcome to myself. I was like, wait a minute, that's not true. Hi, I'm Paula. I'm president of PLUMAS, which is Political Latinx's United for Movement and Action in Society. We have a long name, but thank you for having me here and for speaking on this, or allowing me to speak on this issue, for supporting us. I'm going to read a testimony. As you may know, this came up last year and actually passed, which was really wonderful, and so I'm really going to base a lot of this on what we talked about last year and why it was so crucial then and why it was so crucial, continues to be so right now. So we, student leaders at PLUMAS and other campus student organizations, call for the undocumented student coordinator position to be made permanent immediately. Undocumented students, immigrant communities, and members of mixed status families are in a constant state of vulnerability. The uncertainty of temporary protections and our overall immigration system affects members of the University of Maryland community through factors such as financial insecurity, academic uncertainty, and a toll on mental health. These are some of the many issues the undocumented student coordinator has helped address and advocate for. In fall of 2016, the student organization Coalition Protect UMD, which included PLUMAS at the time, created a list of 64 demands addressing concerns in multiple minority communities on campus. One of the demands was to create a full-time undocumented student coordinator to advocate for, advise, represent, and protect undocumented and documented students. While we are grateful that the Division of Student Affairs was able to respond to this urgent need and temporarily create the undocumented student coordinator position in spring 2017, this core resource for undocumented and immigrant student communities on campus should not be temporary. Undocumented students have continually expressed the value of the coordinator as a resource and support system. Though Laura Borges Garcia's initiatives, such as a monthly breakfast, including Hungry for Community monthly luncheons on the menu, and UndocuTurf's, I'm sorry, the grammar of this is odd. She runs a lot of things. Thank you for supporting me. She runs a lot of resources, including breakfasts, including luncheons. She runs a lot of events that cross a bunch of different communities, a bunch of different community needs, to create a sense of community among different and very scattered students. And without a central resource and advocate for the immigrant and the undocumented communities on campus, we will lose an important educational training, such as the UndocuTurf workshops that she leads for students and student organizations and for staff and faculty. Without a coordinator, we would not have a designated person to turn to for advice on inclusivity of undocumented and immigrant members of UMD into campus-wide efforts such as Turf Vote's push for civic engagement and UMD's Year of Immigration last year, which you may remember. For PLUMAS, working with the coordinator for undocumented students has been crucial to succeeding in our efforts to help and advocate for the UndocuTurf and immigrant communities on campus. This spring will be the 4th year that we will host our annual Dream Gala to fundraise for our emergency legal aid dream fund for undocumented students. And our priority is always to protect undocumented student status and identity, and we work closely with the coordinator to ensure that the students are protected throughout our efforts. Today, actually, I delivered the cashier's check for our first DACA renewal of the year, which is really wonderful. And wherever there are new changes on immigration policy or updates, we check in with the coordinator and ensure that the information we're sharing on our platform is accurate, is up to date, and is being effective. So in addition, the undocumented student coordinator has participated in our events. She's been on our Latinx Town Hall before and the immigration workshops. And she is also absolutely crucial to running the Dream Gala, which raises all the funds for our Dream Fund. So for instance, last year our goal was $3,000, but through her absolutely crucial help, we raised $6,000 and doubled our goal. So she's really wonderful and extremely crucial. The scope of the responsibilities and the need and impact of the undocumented coordinator position was originally unprecedented, but over the past almost 3 years, it has been made clear that the need for this resource and more continues. Just as the Division of Student Affairs understood this need and acted in spring 2017, We hope you will call on us for, we hope you will support this vital university position and encourage you to make the coordinator for undocumented student programs a permanent resource on campus before the contractor's position ends in August. No. At the end of this school year, after which time it cannot be renewed for 1 year. It must be made either permanent or terminated completely. So this year is our last opportunity to make sure that it remains. Thank you.
Hello, I don't know if we've met. I'm Candela, the Vice President of UMS, and I'm here to also speak very strongly in favor of this bill. Thank you for the sponsor and all the co-sponsors for writing this bill, bringing it forth, and all of you for considering it. Paula mentioned a lot of the great work that the coordinator does for undocumented students, and that is very important. It's in her title, it's everything she does. But I want to speak personally on how she has helped me, a documented student at UMD. So I am an immigrant, I don't know if you can tell, but I moved here when I was 17, and I did 2 years of high school, so I got over the culture shock early. And when I came to UMD, I couldn't really relate to either the in-state students who had grown up here and knew everything like the back of their hands, or the international students who were here for the first time ever, were going through the whole culture shock, were dealing with visas, going back home every break. I really didn't have a place here that I could really fully relate to. Plumas really helped with that, but still, it was mostly second or third generation Latin students that, again, had grown up here and didn't relate to what I had gone through. And so the first 2 years were kind of rough, kind of lonely, but then when the undocumented student program came to be, Laura started creating a very strong, very trustworthy community on campus of immigrants that were just like me. I met professors that had emigrated 20 years early, also when they were 17, and I had PhDs and were teaching students and were a great representation for what I could be. And underclassmen that were just starting here had emigrated 2 years ago, and I could help guide them on what they were going through. And we had this space where we could celebrate victories and help each other through the rough patches and a whole bunch of things. And it was really great. And I would really hate to see this go away with me when I graduate at the end of the year. And I really think that we need to make this stay here because we need it to make this community, this campus better. Because we need it, because I needed it when I was a freshman, and people are going to keep needing it when they start coming and going through the years here. The problem that we have with the immigration system that relates to being undocumented, it's not going away anytime soon. And denying students the resources that they need to succeed as students, as peoples, as members of our community, it's not really fair to start talking politics about it because they have legal needs just like anyone else here. They need advice on what to do with their status, with their financials, with everything. And expecting them to become basically lawyers for themselves when they're 17 and just starting to figure out who they are and what they want to be is an undue burden that we can alleviate with this resource. It's not that much, it's just one person doing their best, helping our community become better, and I really hope that it stays. And I encourage you all to vote yes on this and support the undocumented community we have, the immigrant community we have. And yeah, thank you so much.
Hello, my name is Helen. I'm the social chair from Plumas. And I just wanted to also explain why the Laura Bojorquez, her position as an undocumented student coordinator is essential for not only the immigrants here, but every multi-ethnic person here that has families that are immigrants, because she creates communities for them too. We had an immigrant dinner a few months ago, and it was very wholesome how she was able to connect everyone, even though they were documented, they were not documented, and I felt like there was a safe place for me. Right now, in politics, we see right now how polarized it is, and it just feels like in this campus especially, a lot of folks that I know, me personally, we feel like not as safe here, and I hate that because like this is a place where we can learn about each other, you know. So yeah, thank you for hearing us out, and I hope you take into consideration the voices of the students because you guys are SGA. So thank you.
Are there any other student concerns? Thank you so much for coming. Is there a committee report on the bill?
Yes. So Student Affairs passed the bill with vote 14-1-4. There were a couple amendments made, basically just clarifying all the language and some of the clauses, and all the amendments passed 16-0-3.
Are there any questions? All right. So I see that some amendments were made during the committee and some were made outside, so I'm gonna have to be careful. I see the timestamps. All right, so I'll take any motion on the committee report. Did a motion to approve with amendments. Are there any seconds?
Second.
Objections? Hearing none, so approved. Alright, is there a secondary committee report?
Hey everyone again. So the amendments presented have passed unanimously. They're around two. One being grammatical and clarity changes. The second one being in clause 7, where we change from the Trump administration to current and past White House administrations, which reflects the current situation while the historical situation at the same time. That's mostly everything, and they both passed unanimously. Thank you.
Since it's a secondary committee report, all the amendments suggested by the committee will have to be passed on the floor.
Motion to amend or
Not yet. So, is the body ready for the main question?
Yes.
So, if you would like to make an amendment, you have to bring it to the floor. So, you would have to say no. Okay. So, hearing no, we'll move into a period of debate. I'll keep time on that. 60 minutes equally divided. Would the bill sponsor like the affirmative floor? Okay. Would anyone like the negative? Seeing none, the negative floor will remain open. So I'll keep time while she's R&R's figuring that out. Would you like to yield time?
Point of parliamentary
Yes.
procedure. I'm making a motion to amend. Does my time go down?
Not during the motion.
Making a motion to amend.
But you don't have the floor yet. So would you like the floor?
I seek to yield as much time as I may consume. Motion to amend. Number 7, the friendly amendment from the committee. Current and past White House administrations and changing has to have. Also, number 8, addendum F was added. It was accepted, I think, by mistake, but addendum F is an amendment that I'm going to down. Number 15, changing was to is, just grammar. And number 21 is also a minor grammatical thing, changing insurance to long-term assurance.
Those are all grammatical. Alright, so You deem them as friendly. Alright, you still have the floor.
Cool. Point of order, number 7 was a technical amendment.
Yes. The bill sponsor deemed it technical, I deemed it technical, and no one objected. Would you like to form a point of order? Yeah.
I didn't say that it was a technical amendment, I'm just proposing it on the floor.
I thought I heard it. I did, but I can go back. Alright, if you didn't say it was technical, then we'll move into a period of debate on the amendment. Yes.
What would it mean if it's a technical versus not?
So technical means that there's no debate, it just like period was missing, a word like and. Not technical is like substantive. Alright, so we'll move into a period of debate on the amendment. This is going to be 20 minutes equally divided, 10 minutes each side. 10 minutes each side.
Harley Pro, were there objections?
You're right. Thank you. So one second. So there's been a motion to amend on 7, whereas current and past White House administrations instead of the Trump administrations. Are there any seconds on that motion? Alright, so we're currently discussing this amendment. Once we're done with the amendment, then we can talk about So if you that would be a debate. So I'm going to call you on order on that one. If you believe that this amendment should not be in place, then you should object to this amendment. Okay. So are there any seconds on this amendment? Are there any objections on this amendment? There's been an objection. Now we're going to move. Thank you. We're going to move into a period of debate, 20 minutes equally divided. Would the amendment sponsor like the affirmative? Would you like the negative?
I would just like to ask one
yeah.
I guess this is for debate, but in addendum B and C it makes no mention of
So that's going to be
okay.
It's going to be debate. So would you like to seek time?
Yeah, I seek to yield as much time as I may consume. Hello, everybody. First, I just wanted to thank all of the amazing and very brave student leaders who came and spoke to us. I think hearing about student experiences and the student need to have this bill is really important, and we are all very thankful that you guys came to speak.
So, if you could find the time. So the debate needs to be about the specific amendment. What you were currently debating, in my opinion, was regarding the bill, which would be debated on when we're discussing the entire bill. Currently, we must be discussing the amendment. So I'm going to count that as deliberate. That's okay. So debate should be restricted to solely this amendment, since that is what we're debating right now. If that makes sense.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, I seek to yield as much time as I may consume to try number 2. Okay, so the reason that I proposed this amendment is because in the Student Affairs Committee meeting, we had a pretty long conversation about the clause number 7. Specifically, the 2 main points that were discussed was that the clause is overly partisan, and this can alienate a lot of more conservative students on this campus. And then the second point that was brought up is that targeting solely the Trump administration kind of washes over the atrocities and the inhumane policies and practices of the Obama administration. And so I believe that we should have it say current and past administrations. And the reason that both of the addendums focus on the Trump administration is because, as you see throughout the bill, the reason the bill is so long is because we are giving context to the reason that this position was created. And the reality is that this position was created in the aftermath of Trump winning the presidential election. And so I think it's very important that we focus on the ways the Trump administration has deviated in rhetoric and in practice from former administrations, but we don't want to invalidate experiences and the inhumane policies that occurred under the Obama administration and all the administrations before that. I yield back.
So would you like to yield me the time or reserve the time?
Okay, I reserve.
Okay. Would the negative side like time?
Yes.
Okay.
I seek to yield as much time as I may consume. As noted in clause 7, it does mention a policy of family separations. This was enacted under the Trump administration, and I believe as this bill is supposed to be symbolic, if we're going to pull punches, this bill should clearly state who are enacting these policies. So I think to strike through the Trump administration, despite the worry of chastising parts of this campus, would do undue justice to the fact that this is solely the Trump administration that has taken on these policies, not the Obama administration. I yield my time to the chair.
Okay. Yield back. Would the affirmative like to use their time? No. Okay. So
I seek to yield as much time as I may consume, and I yield to Vsauce rep.
Okay,
I
so,
yield.
I yield to seats, so time as I can say, seat yield, whatever. I would like to, make a comment within it as to what the negative side said. That was actually a concept that we were talking about, very much so within the Student Affairs Committee, about the difference between, using, active and passive voice. And, after, long deliberation, even though I don't know if we made, the most true consensus of what it is that we were, planning on dignifying, but because both sides, clearly made, as what the bill sponsor said, about how well it is that we still wanted to have it be clear, that the Trump administration was involved in it, but we didn't want it to be so specific to the point where it would be, it would stir, I guess, a form of havoc or discomfort within other communities across campus. And I see what you're saying about using active voice, and I personally I'm here to really vouch for that, because that is very important with us going into that. But I feel like that we still are using that sense of active voice, because we are still including the administration as we are kind of making this at this point. So it's not like with us changing it that we're just completely sweeping away everything that the administration has done, because you can see clearly throughout the entirety of the bill, it goes into stealth, everything that the administration has done. We just want to kind of really enunciate also that there are other administrations that are also a part of this issue. So I yield back to the bill sponsor.
I reserve back.
You reserve the time.
Reserve.
Okay. Seeing that the affirmative side has been reserved, would anyone like to seek the negative floor? Alright. Would the affirmative like more time? Okay, so seeing that I have both floors and no one would like either, we'll move into a period of voting on this amendment. So the amendment is clause 7 to change from the Trump administration to current and past White House administrations. So all in favor of this amendment? All opposed? And all abstaining? So with a vote of 28 to 1 to 4, the amendment passes. The bill sponsor still holds the affirmative floor, now regarding the entire bill. So what we so would you like to seek time?
Yes.
Okay.
I seek to yield as much time as I can consume. Yes. So first, I would just like to start off by highlighting some of the student testimonies that were said, because personally, my philosophy as legislator is that we should be putting student concerns and student voices first. And so, just again, I wanted to thank so much all the students who came and spoke because it's very brave, especially on such a contentious issue as documentation status and giving out these resources. And on the topic of safety, one of the students discussed how since the Trump administration has come forth with this inhumane rhetoric, that they and many of their peers feel less safe on this campus. Another student, a student who is a documented student, discussed how this resource helped her to integrate and find a home in a very big campus when she first arrived here. And so I think it is clear that whether you are documented, undocumented, whether you come from a mixed status family or not, that you benefit from having this undocumented students program exist. And the reality is that this position, when it was created 3 years ago, it was a C2 contract position. This means that it's a temporary position that can only be extended 3 times. It has already been extended for all the 3 times. So this is the final year that we have to make this position permanent, or it just kind of disappears. And it's set to expire in June 2020, and the Director of Student Affairs at the administrative level, they are in charge of this position, so it's really crucial that our body gets fully behind this so that all of us can use all the different avenues we have at our disposal to work and pressure the administration, because the administration has also already proven a commitment to ensuring this position stays. The administration has already stated that they don't plan on ending the position. This isn't some radical stance for us to take to call for this position to be permanent, because the administration has already said that they are going to do that. We just want to hold the administration accountable to this. And I think another important point to bring up when it comes to this position being permanent is the need to make this position a director position. Just a few hours ago, I met with Laura, who is the undocumented students coordinator, and we were discussing why it's so important to have this position not just be a coordinator, but be a director position. And she was telling me that she's spoken to a lot of her colleagues in similar roles at other universities and institutions that are similar to ours. And when it comes to being a director position, this really gives you the access to the administrators and administration that you really need for the long-term strategic planning that is necessary to ensure that this position can succeed to the full extent of its potential. Another thing we talked about is when it comes to budget cuts, lower-level positions tend to be the first to go. If there's a recession in a few years, or if money dries up at the state level, we don't want this to be one of those stories we hear that this program was cut and now students are left without a resource that they expected to have and that they deserve to have on this campus. Another point I want to discuss is there was some discussion in the committee about the wording I use when it comes to clause number 8 and the attack on legal immigration. And the Trump administration has shown clear evidence through many policies, not all that I list here, but that I can go on to list if people would like. The reason I didn't list all these policies is because if I were to list all of the policies the Trump and past administrations have done, which hurt documented and undocumented communities, this bill would be 20 pages long, and I think it's already long enough as it is. And so I seek to reserve my time.
Would anyone like to hold the -4? Alright.
Motion to call.
So you can yield back.
I yield back.
Alright. Seeing that both floors are open, we'll move into a period of voting. All in favor of F191023A? Please raise your hands. All opposed? All abstaining? You abstain? This bill passes with a vote of 29 to 0 to 4. All right. So now there's another bill on the table, F191023F. Are there any motions on that bill? Right, it will remain on the table until next week. Are there any follow-ups regarding bills that have been passed? What? Alright.
I would move to put F19, 10, 23F onto second reading.
Alright. There's been a motion to take from the table F19.
Yes. So motion to reorder the business and go to table bills.
Can you rescind your, the
I
chair would look
I would
favorably.
gladly rescind my motion.
Motion to reorder business and go to table bills.
Okay, so we have a motion to reorder business to move back to the table bills since we had moved on to follow up. Are there any seconds on that motion? Any objections? Alright, so reorder.
Motion to take off the bill off the table bills and
Alright.
move it to the second reading.
So we have a motion to move F19, 10, 23F from the table onto second reading calendar. Are there any seconds?
Second.
Any objections? So, but. Alright, are there any student concerns on F19, 10, 23F? Is there a committee report?
There is this week.
Sweet.
Hey guys, so again, apologies for having this last week. We didn't just realize we didn't go over it last week because of the annual town hall, we didn't have a committee, so we went over it this Monday instead. Passed 6-0-2 with PJ and I being the abstentions. There was some discussion regarding how questions were going to be submitted, so that was sort of ironed out in committee, so we had to address questions there. The only amendment was technical, with all these missing commas on third place. Happy to answer any questions that anyone may have regarding this.
Alright, thank you. So I'll take any motion on the committee report.
Motion to approve.
There's been a motion to approve with amendments or with?
With amendments.
With amendments, thank you. Are there any seconds on motion?
Second.
Is there any objections? Alright, so approved. Is the body ready for the main question?
Yep.
Yes.
Did someone say no?
I said.
Okay, hearing no, we'll move into a period of debate, 60 minutes equally divided.
I would love to.
You would, so the term on the floor would anyone like to speak the negative? Seeing none, the negative will remain open.
I seek to yield as much time as I can consume. First of all, thank you. I promise I'll keep this short. So just to address some sort of like general issues, things that were brought up in committee regarding this bill and why we're having it. One of the big difficulties of living in College Park as any politically minded individual, I mean, we are the SGA, it's kind of our thing, is that Annapolis isn't very close, and we need to leverage our connection as the flagship university to invite legislators down over so that we can have conversations about student concerns, things that involve the governing bodies as they relate to the University of Maryland and how they're interacted, and to make our representative democracy truly representative of the university and what it stands for. And so this bill was put forward such that we could create sort of like a backdrop to structure an event where we can bring legislators down and talk about the issues relevant to the University of Maryland and its community. You will notice upon reading, it's been on the table for a little while, so I assume everyone looked over it. The actual specific wording looks a little vague, and that is actually by design. One of the big problems is that these people are extremely busy. Their legislative session's short, as more students find out this coming spring semester, and so there's a lot of work that goes into sort of arranging for their times to drive potentially an hour plus into College Park. And so this is sort of our main sort of like backdrop bill to allow for that and to create flexibility, because we can't necessarily promise that a specific legislator is coming, although we can promise that the efforts brought forth by the committee are dedicated towards specifically like hyper-regional representatives, so people that represent this area, issues regarding the university, and such. And I can see to yield my time.
Alright, seeing that the time has been yielded back to me, does anyone seek to hold the negative? Not the affirmative? Alright, we'll move into a period of voting. All in favor of F19-1023F? All opposed? All abstaining? Great, the bill passes with a vote of 32 to 0 to 1. Alright, so now we will move back into follow-up. Are there any follow-ups?
Just really quickly, last week we passed a bill on the student groups mixer. I just want to remind everyone it's going to be happening next Thursday from 5 to 8 at SORC. So feel free to come and feel free to invite each and every student group that you know. Thank you.
I also have a follow-up. CPR. Thank you, comms, for an amazing graphic. It was, it was great. Thank you. Yeah, so please share that. Registration closes Sunday, and I will update you next week on how many people register as soon as I know. But please. Yeah. Any other follow-ups?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank everybody for passing my bill, and thank all the other people who have been instrumental in making sure that this campaign is a success. I want to make clear that when the fight to keep the undocumented student coordinator position permanent it didn't start with this bill and it didn't end with this bill. And so there's going to be a lot of steps after this in the coming weeks, and I'm going to need a lot of people's help to make sure that we can make what this bill says a reality. And so if you're interested in getting involved in this work, please reach out to me or anybody in Plymouth. We would really appreciate the help. Thank you.
Is there a follow-up on a bill?
Oh, no.
Great. We'll move into exec updates. Does the chief of staff have to bring updates?
Everyone, Ireland's at the city council meeting tonight, and they moved to Wednesday for some reason.
Can we
close laptops as we're trying to?
So that's tonight. Hello. Let's see. So 100-year celebration brunch was this weekend. Yeah, Rachel left, but it was really amazing. Everyone who was there, I think, got to appreciate just seeing where our organizations come from and hopefully to another 100 years. The rest of the stuff is in the document, so please take some time and go over it. I'm happy to take any questions on it, though. Any specifics? Seeing that? Yeah.
So, is there any sort of updates on the, do we foresee like a midweek update on city council meeting issues? So like the meeting is tonight, right? And usually we get like an update over the week, like today. Do we expect like a midweek or should be updated fall?
It's a great question for Dan.
You sent me a video. I don't know.
I don't think there's anything like late breaking in the next couple of days because election just happened. But yeah, I assume we'll see that from you.
Was there another question?
Any other questions?
All right, thank you. Academic affairs. Okay. Please read their update. Student affairs.
So Deandron's not here, it's Snow's birthday, so they're at dinner, but he doesn't really have any major updates. Met with Strategic Communications, got the Disability Awareness Campaign, and they're very in support. And then the task forces that we have within Student Affairs Committee are moving along. I'm not gonna read it out loud, because you guys can all read. And then Draw just said to reach out to him if you have any other specific questions about anything that he's doing, anything within his updates.
Great, thank you. Is there an update for Dart? Okay. Comms.
Hi y'all, thank you so much for all your reposting and all your hard work. So I don't know if you saw, I made a mistake, and on communications channel, I put there was a bot, right? Called Jinwook's Ego. So here's what's gonna happen. So in the past, when I said at channel, please like this, it wasn't me. It was actually a bot all along. And yeah, surprise, right? But I realized that every time I post, everything gets posted. To a point, it annoyed everyone. I mean, me mainly, but still. So this is how I decided to solve this. Communications, I'm gonna keep it me. Sorry I picked y'all, it was actually my bot. Now it's gonna be me. However, if you want to be caught up on what happens in social media, please join social media channel. I created one a long time ago, but it's still there. So if you go to a Slack, and you can do it right now, yeah, if you go to a social media channel, it will be updated every time I post something, and it will say Jinwook's Ego. So if you don't repost or like or share, it hurts my ego. Thank you. So yes, do you have a question?
Yeah. So how does this like interfere with like when we co-sponsor an event and like we committed to like sharing their stuff?
So you're talking about the events that we co-sponsor, how do we do that? So I think that's the biggest question that I'm tackling with right now, like how much gets posted and how much don't. And the what would usually happen for at least in the Instagram and Facebook part is that all the things that we co-sponsor with, it usually goes on the story, and for the ones that we actually host, it goes on those posts because we want to get that algorithm and all that, So yeah, thank you for asking. If you have any concerns about that, please let me know because I want to make sure that we are running this as smoothly as possible. And yeah, so that's one update I have. And also another thing I wanted to say is thank you so much for everyone again for who's been reposting a lot of the material. There was one name that showed up every single time. And I wanted to recognize that real quick because it really means a lot because I post these and it gets no likes or whatsoever. Hurts my ego. Therefore, Jinwook's ego on the social media channel. But I really appreciated like her contribution to being the follower. So I really want to thank you, Alyssa, for all your. Right, that's all the time I have for you. Thank you.
Diversity and inclusion. Do you have diversity and inclusion update?
Yeah, sweet. So, really quickly, we are reconfiguring the UMPD event, so that's happening right now due to diversity. If you have any questions about that, we passed unanimously on the two bills, and thirdly, all the other events are chugging along, so thank you so much.
And I'll just add, we'll do a diversity work session or speakers time on the 20th in 2 weeks. I will clarify with them for sure, but that is coming our way as well. Civic affairs.
Of course I'm here. That's John Mulaney saying. So just some quick updates from me. Make sure you're signing up for HGA. We've been working really hard on that. So you can sign up from the Trump side and do registration, or you can sign up to be doing yeah, the table with Samay. If you look at mine, I have election day results. I'm not going to go through them. Things stayed pretty much the same, but Dan did a great job passing the 2-year non-binding term limit. So there's more work on that, but a great job on that from Dan. Terpso is likely to get a grant from Do Good. We'll have confirmation on that later in the week. That'll be good for some of Terpso's efforts. If you're interested in attending a conference on civic engagement, the SLICE conference is not this Saturday, but next Saturday. Great opportunity to connect some people in higher ed on civic engagement. Let me know if you're interested. Terpso conference is being postponed, but all the speakers are still going to be the same. All the events will be the same, just later in the spring. Make sure if you're interested in the blood drive, reach us here too. She's organizing a blood drive for us next week to connect with PHA. So make sure you're connecting with that too. Okay, that's it for me. Thank you.
Hey guys, so you just open your laptops. And could you please open up the sign-up sheet? Thank you. Thank you. I know we're all busy people, so I'll give us all a 30-second break to put your name down for a couple slots for not this Thursday, but next Thursday. Anytime you're free. Love to have you. So while you're doing that, November 14th, so not this Thursday, but next, please keep reaching out to student groups. So we have the gathering at the end. We can actually get a new cross-fit student body there. If you have any questions about HGA Day, what we're doing, please let me know. Thank you for passing the bill. We're going to go to Town Hall. That is on 2 Tuesdays? No, 19th. It's a Tuesday. That's the room number. Sherm alluded to the fact that we kept some vague language in the bill, and that's because it is as hard as you may assume it is to get in touch with some representatives. So, but luckily we have 3 that are confirmed. So they're all from this district, District 21, that UMD falls within. The Senator Jim Rosenfeld, Delegate Layman, Delegate Pena Melman. Those 3 are confirmed to be on the panel. And then we have invitations out for a couple more, and we're anticipating at least 4, hopefully 5, but either way, we're definitely going to have town hall to degree. If you have any, we talked about this in committee on Monday, and a couple committees ago as well. Well, we're going to have student question and answer at the town hall part. We're also assembling a list of pre-written questions just to get things started and fill in any gaps that we may have. So if you have any pertinent questions that you want to see a part of that, just Slack me and you can add to the list. As for the state legislative agenda, a couple GBMs ago, I was asked to do, just to sort of bring it back up and sort of just give a quick gist of what's going on with those. So I'll do that right now. So the first one is their tax credit bill. I include some links there because this is a recurring piece of legislation. So if you're interested, you can look up what last year's legislation was, exactly what it was, and then a couple sort of media outlets posted about it. There's actually a DBK article I found from 2016 about the same bill that was introduced in 2016. It's pretty interesting. It's been around for a while. Hate group legislation. So it's looking more and more like that is going to be a school policy issue that we're looking into. We floated it out to a couple legislators, and it seems like it's sort of the agreement's been that it might be more of a state or school issue other than a state mandated issue. So we'll keep looking into that. But I know David, where's David? Wait, David, what is it? There's some great work on the school policy stuff for hate legislation. So gotta think of that. Mental transparency. So what we're asking there is basically similar to a timeline report. We're looking to mandate all schools to submit a health mental transparency report, just detailing what resources they have on campuses so that we can better address the issue and know where we need to focus our attention. Technical affordability, this goes back to the question that I asked the gentleman earlier. Oregon passed piece of legislation that required their schools to include information on textbooks and open education resources on the registration pages. So we're looking to do that in Maryland, so mandating that in the future, any new enterprise systems must include information on courses that have free or open source materials. So we're looking to make that the law so that the school has to do that. Financial sourcing, so this has to do with the MCE contract or MCE obligation that the public institutions have in Maryland. And so with that, it's what we're looking to do is increase accessibility to the waiver for the financial code so that you can get a waiver to purchase furniture from other sources. Lastly, this bill comes from Lily, who's actually the Deputy Government Affairs Director. She wrote this bill herself, it's great. She worked with Senator Elfrith on it. If anyone's interested, it's the full bill, but that's her synopsis of it. It basically expands veterans' benefits to their dependents and just expands the time that they can use it, basically. So, all great stuff.
So this is still being worked on. It isn't the actual
Yes, precisely. None of this, as I say anytime I can, this is a working document, a living document. We are in the process now of meeting with state legislators. As we meet with them, we find out new things that they're working on. We get their opinion on these to see the feasibility or if there's something already in the works. So none of this is set in stone. If you scroll down a little bit from the next page, you'll see the last bullet, which is, as always, if you have something that you have heard, come across the wire, seen another state, what have you, please reach out to me, let me know. I only know so much of what's going on in the world. Yeah, any questions about anything on the report or update? Cool, thanks, Esther.
Thank you. Health and wellness?
So over the week, Kelly met with the counseling center and University Health Center. A lot of great conversation about how these resources can be more effective to support students. Also, like you said earlier, everyone please go to Facebook and at least say you're interested and like share the post about the CPR first aid AED. Just saying you're interested makes other people see it and it really like generates interest. Make sure everyone's taking advantage of the event. Continue to share the mental health survey as well. We really are trying to understand how we can better serve students regarding mental health. And there's a student-led project called Chat Help, which is essentially students are creating a bot which you can direct questions to the University Health Center. If questions have been asked previously, the bot automatically responds to you with necessary advice. If the question hasn't been asked and is new, it's forwarded straight to the members of the University Health Center and they generate a response for you. There's prototype testing in our committee meeting on Monday, November 11th. And if you're interested in this prototype testing, please come. It's 5 p.m. SGA office. We want to offer as much support for the app as possible because it really helps students get in touch with the health center. And if anyone's interested in reading some state bills about mental health, Slack Kelly, she's meeting with David Pontius on Tuesday to continue talking about it.
I'll just add, if anyone has questions about Chat Health, I know the person who's working on it very well. They also came to GBM last year to talk about it, so feel free to reach out about that one. SMP?
Hello, everyone.
Hey.
Hello. So, Reclaim the Right is still going. We're almost done. We're almost there. Only a couple weeks left. We still have a couple weeks of tabling Thursday night, so if you want to come, make sure that you sign up so that we know that you'll be there. It's been a really good time. We've got to talk to students about consent, boundaries, healthy relationships, and some people aren't engaged, but some people are very engaged, and it's been a good time also for us all just getting to know each other. So if you've been helping out with that, thank you so much. Our big effort right now is the Moving Forward event, which is coming up. Hopefully you all got my Facebook invitation, because I invited all of you. So that's coming up. It's 2 weeks from tomorrow. So we're going to have speakers, resources, we're going to have interactive, different art and healing activities, and also some educational opportunities. And so we'll have speakers from the Maryland Coalition Against Sexual Assault, and also the Care to Stop Violence Office. And a couple other people who are just going to introduce themselves and talk a little bit about what they do. We now have 10 co-sponsors, which is amazing. We've got a lot of interest from student groups in supporting this and being a part of this and helping to table really try to highlight different parts of this issue. So that's been really great. Please keep sharing the living guide. The link is here. It's ter.ps/smpliving. So we're trying to see what students are doing to live through their trauma, to deal with their trauma. So please just share that if you know anybody who might want to contribute. For those of you who don't know, there were proposed Title IX changes that came up, I would say it's late last year, and the final changes were sent to the OIRA, which is an office in the government, for final approval. So we're expecting to get those pretty soon, and that's something that I've been talking to Simay in Ireland about, so hopefully we're going to come up with a game plan for that. Yeah, HEA Day, go to that. So that makes it that much more important to pay attention to those things and see how we can start working towards some solutions. And then I have a meeting tomorrow with the Sexual Assault Prevention Committee, Communication Subcommittee, so that's all the Raise Your Voice stuff. We're going to talk about all that. And then I have a meeting with Title IX Office next week. So if anybody has anything they want me to bring up at either of those meetings, let me know. Anybody have any questions? Anything? Yeah.
I just wanted to say congrats on being elected chair of Women's Caucus.
Thanks.
Yay!
Now I'm gonna go.
Student groups. Thank you.
Hi everyone, how are you guys doing tonight?
Great.
Great. I love hearing the enthusiasm. Yay! Okay. So I have one major
again, we added an additional 34 groups. So there are now 34 more SGA recognized groups, bringing our total up to 335 total SGA recognized groups, which is a decent number. Way to go, we're awesome. I also want to again plug, as we did, our student groups mixer that is happening next Thursday. It's going to be awesome. We're going to have games and pizza thanks to Stork, and you're going to get to learn about resources from on campus and network with other student groups. So you should all come. It'll be great. Yes, it'll be great. And the same projects that were happening are still happening. You saw the agricultural representatives bill for expanding the RHA's Trash to Treasure program. He's been working really hard on that, so I hope you guys talk about it more next week. We are still in the process of reconstructing student group membership. We're working on Student Leader of the Week, and we are currently brainstorming more student group outreach initiatives, which if you guys have any thoughts on, I would love to hear. Any questions? Okay, great.
And sustainability.
Hello again. So Earth Month is coming along, kicking my butt, but it's coming along. And yeah, if you wanna hear more about that, I can talk about it one-on-one, but there's too much information, so I don't wanna bore you all with that. Sally De Leon, she's a senior project manager at the Office of Sustainability. And she's coming to give the carbon neutral commuting report to SSE next week, and y'all are invited to it. It's 6 p.m. in the SGA office on Thursday. For some background, last year SGA submitted a proposal to take a portion of the sustainability fund every year to mitigate undergraduate commuting, and this is the first year that they've done it. So in the proposal, they are required to give a report to SGA about what they're buying, how it's going, and she felt it better to give it to SSE, but like I mentioned, you're all welcome to come ask questions. She's really friendly and nice. Then second Sustainability Council meeting is tomorrow, and I'm working on the general education sustainability requirement. I met with the coordinator 2 days ago, and they want a lot more data before moving forward, so we're exploring how to provide them with that and what alternatives we can implement sooner than that. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
With the student liaison, I sent it into legislature. Enjoy in your own time. Noah is in all channels, so Noah sees all, or Chief of Staff sees all. Are there any other comments? So moving into comments for the good of the council.
I'm not sure if this is like common to the good of the council or just related to the vice president of academic affairs work, but the provost sort of interest group meeting, provost, sorry, not with the pronunciation stuff. The provost meeting thing is tentatively scheduled on the 25th and 27th. As far as I'm aware, the interest forms are settled, but I think you can reach out on that matter. Sorry.
Could you send me your?
Oh, I sent you the share link.
Oh, all right. Sorry, Denton, or we'll move down the road. Go ahead.
Hey, okay, so this is honestly in behalf for Kelly, Director of Health and Wellness. I knew you were gonna do it. So Kelly has been working really hard on trying to really push the mental health training that is happening on Friday and Saturday from 1 to 5. I highly encourage you all to do it, or at least tell your friends to get someone to be a part of it. It would be really hurtful for after all the work that Health and Wellness has put into actually putting out this bill, and you guys slash myself also supporting this endeavor, just for it to be canceled or for it to kind of go into rut just simply because we just don't have enough people that are interested in pursuing it. I just feel like that it would be very endearing to not only to myself, but to Kelly and many others that have been a part of the project. So if you guys don't know, what the like flyer and stuff looks like, and like all the like events, just Slack me or Slack Kelly, and we will like gladly send you the information, and we hope to see you guys on Friday and Saturday.
Hi. The student facility status meeting for the first time on Friday, and I'm so excited. We got applications in the double digits, and it's gonna be so fun. And I'm gonna deliver on it, and Noah's gonna help me, and it's gonna be a good time. So our meetings are the next 3 Fridays. I don't keep you guys updated on the What time and when? 8:30 to 10 in the
8:30 a.m.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
8:30 a.m.
Janelle said you.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be super fun. And it's a student majority committee, and there's so many cool projects. I'll keep you guys updated. So that's it. Yeah, it's close, but like, I'll keep you updated.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the people
It's
on the
alright.
committee are the only people who can be in that.
So I can't go.
No.
But my request.
Do you have questions? And I'll answer them in a timely manner.
Great. Yes.
So, as you guys know, we just passed a bill related to the Undocumented Students Program, and it just so happens that this Tuesday, the Undocumented Students Program is hosting a really amazing event that I'm going to be going to. It's called I Define My Shell. So basically, it has many parts to the event. It's been like a week or 2 events. There was some stuff yesterday. Tomorrow, Kumos is holding a poster making session / chant practice. That is going to be at like 5:30 p.m. I'll put this all in the Slack, but I'm just giving you guys a rundown. On Tuesday, there is the Home is Here rally, which is going to be at the Supreme Court in D.C. related to making sure DACA stays. So that is going to be at like 11 a.m.-ish. The Undocumented Students Program has coordinated for buses, so if you're on campus and you want to go and then get dropped off back here, that's going to be super convenient for you. Also, if you have class Tuesday during the day, you could come to the community dinner that's going to be at like 5 p.m. on Tuesday. You just need to register, sign up so that you can get a head count, and it would be really great since we just passed this bill to show our support by actually showing up for undocumented and documented students.
We're gonna go in order, just like go.
Thank you.
Okay, so first thing first, another closed committee, ITAC. I'm the chair of ITAC, that is IT Advisory Committee. So after the presentation today, I guess a lot of you could be wondering what's happening there. If the questions weren't answered, all of you can apply to join the committee. I put the form out in the general Slack. Anyone who wants to join can fill the form out. I have to make 5 appointments. I can choose any one of you, but I would rather prefer that you send it out to your friends so that we can find people outside SGA sitting on the committee as well. Second, women caucus. She stole my glory. But anyways, Elena got elected as the women caucus chair, and still getting anyways, next week we will be electing the vice chair of the women caucus as well. Also, after the GBM today, we'll be doing elections for the chair of the black caucus. So if anyone wants to stay for that, please stay.
Alright. I'm gonna go in circle if that's okay. Okay. Anyone else? First one.
Hey. So long story short, you remember the book we got I think it's 2 GBMs ago? So the person who wrote the book, Patricia Roberts Miller, is going to be speaking about demagoguery, excuse me, and that's tomorrow, November 7th at 4 p.m. in the Colony Ballroom. And you don't have to RSVP, you can just show up, pop in, listen for a few minutes, go to your class, show up late. You can come with me, Slack me. We can get food after. Okay.
Great. Alright. Yeah, we'll move.
Okay, great. Hi everybody. So on like what Clay was saying, for Women's Caucus, please fill out the form. Thank you. Naya is the only one who filled out the form so far. You need to fill out the form. Basically the form is just gonna ask like what you see Women's Caucus as, like types of things you want to see Women's Caucus doing, that sort of thing. It's only as effective as we make it. So I really need all of your help and your input and your participation in the things that like we're doing in the conversations that we're having in order for that to be an effective group. And then the second thing, which is unrelated, is I'm part of a student group called Preventing Sexual Assault. And it's a group on campus that does a lot of advocacy work related to sexual assault prevention. And on Monday they're having an event at Cornerstone from 8 to 10. It's called Real Talk. And there's going to be a bar tab. And so you're going to come and we're going to have a good time. We're going to talk about preventing sexual assault on campus. And you don't have to be 21 to come, but we do have a bar tab. And one of the things that we try to do is talk about how we can have conversations about sexual assault, know what sexual assault is, and how we can stop it even while we are drinking alcohol. So it is a metaphor, and it's always going to be great. So if you have any questions about that, please let me know.
I believe there was another hand up.
No, she called it.
Great. Alright, Ralph time.
Do I have to like go up and present like how
Yes.
to?
Oh.
Okay. Ralph has already been handed off. I'll explain what he's gonna do momentarily. So, hey guys, hey folks, all respect the trademark. This is my technically 2-week period because I didn't know you guys were supposed to just hand it off at the end of the week. I thought it was a GBM thing. Again, still kind of new here. This is my Ralph time. So, actually the day after I got Ralph, I was like, I need some sweaters and I need like a button up because, you know, the wardrobe was lacking. So we went thrifting. Not pictured, as you can see, me and David Colafrone also went thrifting again. Shout out to the United Methodist Church. It's right by the Domain. They have a really great rummage sale. Got a really nice flannel. You'll see it later in this presentation. So in my policy class, we met with Dr. Eugene Anderson from the APLU. He represents all American public land-grant universities. We are one of them, go Terps. And we just talked about higher education, sexual misconduct and finance policy for schools like us and what that sort of means, and sort of the bigger picture of that. Really great conversation, really smart dude. I learned literally so much in 15 minutes, it was insane. I think Ralph did too. I felt like making coffee because I haven't been sleeping, and so it works out really neatly that coffee kind of helps cover that. And I also warmed up right because I was too lazy to bake some. That was later that day. We went for a skincare routine. I need some glycolic acid, some charcoal. We got the whole thing going. Big shout out to Origins. It's like Active Improvement. It's a great line of charcoal-based skincare products. Not an ad. Not an ad. I paid for it full price. Ralph and I met Testudo last Sunday at the alumni brunch. It was very cool. Ralph probably felt a little insignificant, but I told him it wasn't the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog. But I don't think he really took that to heart because he's not really a dog, is he? We went and saw John Mulaney from the stands, which was kind of far, but still very good. Very funny, shout out hydration. And some random person was like waiting in line behind me. I don't know who they are or like what their purpose was, but I just like their energy, so I just wanted to highlight that. So, as you can see, I'm bald, and I was dressing in all white, so you can imagine what that means. I was Mr. Clean. If you follow me on Instagram, 650 shirt, you will see my actual Halloween outfit. It's how you all grown up as a frat. But you can hit I went to the Nats parade with Ralph. Unfortunately, Ralph was tucked behind because I'm not really good at the photos thing, both being in the photo and structuring them. As you can tell, I don't really do candids. But we actually had the exact same outfit on, like literally everything, exact same cut of pant from the same company, except for the shoes. It was just good times all around. So, for 2 weeks spent with Ralph, right, you think, oh, like, sure, like, you probably did, like, a lot more. I don't really do that much, just so I can put that out there. I also spent a lot of time on View Ride, and it would have been, bad for the insurance company if they found me taking pictures while moving at, a few miles an hour. It would have been a problem. But thank you guys so much. Sorry for bothering y'all. This is really serious. I just wanted to say that I'm really appreciative of everything and everyone here, and regardless of opinions on whatever issues or whatever, I came in this year really dead set on transferring. I actually just deleted my transfer applications today. I'm very happy about that. And really, I'm so appreciative that Ireland recognized my work, and so when because a lot of my stuff is tabling, and no one's gonna see you when it's 11 p.m. outside Montgomery, and so I wanted to give it to someone who I thought did a lot of work that we may not have necessarily seen, and so I gave it to our DART position, Director of Alumni Relations Traditions, Rachel Heck, for her incredible work on the Sunday. Thank you guys.
Alright, so with that, I'll take any motion.
Let's adjourn.
Any seconds?
Second.
Objections, going on, so adjourned.